You have been sold a lie your entire life, that being harmless is synonymous with being good. Society has taught you to file down your sharpest edges and called it maturity. So, you smile on cue. You say the right things at the right time, and you try to appear strong, even when you feel like you're quietly crumbling inside. You are always striving to be agreeable, polished, and normal. But if this compliance is truly the answer, why do you feel so exhausted? Why does that emptiness still visit you every night, while those who seem worse than you are rising up and enjoying passionate, deep connections? The truth might send a shiver down your spine. The person you are most afraid of becoming is actually the savior you have been searching for. It is that part of you that you were told was too much, too intense, too angry, too ambitious, too emotional, too wild. That version, the one you have spent a lifetime avoiding, is the version hiding in the shadow. Today, we are not going to discuss how to become better by following old, worn-out standards. We are going to talk about how to become stronger by awakening the monster within, reclaiming the power to protect yourself, and finally living a whole life. Number 1, why being nice is killing you. There is a silent tragedy unfolding every day, right in your very breath. It is the tragedy of slowly losing yourself in exchange for a ticket of admission into the world of acceptance. You think you are living virtuously, but in reality, you are committing a slow spiritual suicide. Carl Jung, with his piercing insight into the human soul, called this social shell we put on every morning the persona. This mask helps us smile at a difficult colleague, maintain a professional attitude before an unreasonable boss, and uphold social order. It is a necessary shell for us to communicate, to protect the most sensitive parts of the soul from the rough edges of life. We cannot simply lay our bare insides out for strangers or business partners to see. But the tragedy is that modern people spend most of their time living through the persona. At work, with friends, on social media. How many of us can still clearly distinguish between the mask and our true self? Consider a girl who always prides herself on being the cool girl, chill, no drama, undemanding in relationships. When her boyfriend cancels their date at the last minute for the 3rd time that week due to urgent work, she thinks for a moment and then texts back, "It's okay, work is more important." Yet, despite the text, disappointment, sadness, and resentment are choked back in her chest. So, is the understanding girlfriend or the girl who needs to be the number 1 priority her true self? When you completely identify your ego with the role you play, the persona, you begin to believe that you really are just that obedient person. And that is when your soul begins to die, leading to an exhaustion that no amount of sleep can cure. In America, where the culture celebrates extroversion and positivity, sometimes to a toxic degree, the pressure to be fine becomes an unspoken mandate. You fear that if you reveal a single sharp edge, a bit of anger or dissatisfaction, you will be cast out, labeled as difficult or unpleasant. So, you choose the safest path, becoming a nice person. But that niceness is often a dangerous covert contract. Look at those suffering from nice guy or good girl syndrome. Their thinking operates on a naive, transactional logic. If I am good, then the world will give me love and respect. The brutal reality is that life simply does not work that way. When your sacrifices are taken for granted, when your yielding is mistaken for weakness, the seed that sprouts within you is inevitably silent resentment. It accumulates day by day, seeping like a slow poison flowing back inward. You transform into someone who is passive-aggressive. You say, "It's fine," but your tone is ice cold. You accidentally break a bowl or let slip a sharp, thin slice of sarcasm. These are the distorted cries for help from an ego that is being suffocated. Forced obedience creates ticking time bombs. Deeper than the resentment, however, lies the pain of fragmentation. Jung believed that the greatest suffering of modern man stems not from poverty or disease, but from the act of tearing ourselves apart. You become a brutal courtroom within your own mind. There, you are the defendant, the prosecutor, and the judge all at once. It happens the moment you raise your voice at your children or slip up with a colleague. A cruel voice inside your head immediately screams, "Why are you so awful? Why can't you control yourself?" The more you crave saintliness, the more ruthlessly you hate the darker, deeply human corners of yourself. Modern psychology offers a profound term for this: ironic process theory. Discovered by Professor Daniel Wegner, this theory points out a cruel paradox of the human mind. When you try to suppress a thought or an emotion, your brain is forced to run a subconscious monitoring process to ensure that thought does not surface. For example, if you order yourself, "Do not think of a white bear covered in mud standing on a sheet of ice," isn't that white bear the very first thing that pops into your mind? Similarly, when you spend your entire day telling yourself, "I must not be angry," or "I must not be jealous," your brain is actually becoming obsessed with that anger and jealousy. You are not eliminating them, you are etching them deeper into your nervous system. This prolonged suppression of emotion is an internal war that consumes a massive amount of energy. It triggers your body's alarm system, driving cortisol levels, the stress hormone, to a peak. Your body remains in a constant state of fight or flight, even while you are sitting still, smiling on the outside. And when left unresolved, these psychological issues manifest outwardly as chronic illnesses, stomach pain, or unexplained exhaustion. The price of suppression is your own health. So, we have seen that allowing the persona to replace the true self and suppressing your emotions is a slow, wasting death. It leads to spiritual exhaustion, accumulated resentment, and internal fragmentation. Worse, this can even be the root cause of physical illness. But the greatest consequence of all, when you spend a lifetime shoving your imperfect parts down into the unconscious, is that they begin to control your life, and you don't even realize it is happening. That is why those who appear the most righteous on the outside are sometimes ensnared in the worst scandals. That is why you, someone who is always smiling, find yourself drinking into oblivion every weekend to escape reality. That is also the reason for those unexplained bouts of depression, that invisible emptiness that visits you in the dead of night. Painfully enough, is actually a cry for help from the parts of yourself that you have abandoned. They are pounding on the door, demanding to be let back in. They want to tell you this: the niceness you are so desperately trying to maintain is, in reality, just a prison. And as long as you are afraid of becoming a monster, you will forever remain a victim of your own obedience. Number 2, redefining the monster. The gold in the shadow. Why do we need ugly emotions? Those feelings society rejects. Why does a person craving peace need to engage with the chaotic parts of the psyche? Carl Jung, in his deepest exploration of the human consciousness, affirmed, "Where your fear is, there is your task." Beyond that, he presented a paradox that could completely shift how you view yourself. The shadow does not merely contain refuse, it holds 90% of the psyche's pure gold. When a child is too loud, too hyperactive, or too fierce in defending their toy, adults often immediately scold them, demanding they be good. Over time, to secure love, that child has to sever that fierceness and stuff it into the sack of the unconscious. But as a result, the adult they become is timid and full of fear. When you deny your pride, you lose your self-confidence. When you repress your instinctual desires, you simultaneously extinguish the fires of passion and creativity. You haven't just filtered out the dust, you have thrown away the pure gold. The truth is, a person who is good, in the sense of being weak, is often dull and lifeless. Conversely, those with magnetic charisma, those capable of changing the world, always radiate an abundant vitality. That energy, at its core, is primal aggression that has been transformed. It sheds its skin to become the capacity to set boundaries, the drive to conquer goals, and the strength to protect what you love. No great achievement on American soil, from the skyscrapers in New York to the technological revolutions of Silicon Valley, was built by harmless people. They were built by those who tapped into the immense energy of their shadow, the hunger, the refusal to compromise, and the will to impose order upon chaos. True power, the pure gold Jung spoke of, is the ability to transmute this energy. This leads us to a profound philosophical question regarding the nature of morality, a question that could completely alter how you perceive your own worth. Let us visualize two men. The first is a weak man. He has no capacity for conflict, no muscle, no voice, and no ability to harm anyone. He lives his entire life in peace, never instigating a war. The second is a warrior. He carries a sharp sword at his hip, possesses superior combat skills, and has the capacity to cause terrible destruction. But he chooses to keep that sword in its sheath. He chooses peace. Who is truly moral? According to conventional thinking, both are good because neither harms anyone. But through a Jungian lens, the difference is night and day. The first man possesses no morality. He is simply harmless. His goodness is compulsory, a result of his impotence. Conversely, it is the second man who possesses true morality. Morality is a choice. You can only be called good when you have the full capacity to do bad or to be dangerous, but you voluntarily control it under the guidance of your conscience. This is precisely the redefinition of the monster we are aiming for. To become a monster in the Jungian sense is not to become cruel. It is the act of restoring your sword. It is the process of finding your claws again, reclaiming your capacity for influence, and recovering the weight of your voice. Because if you are incapable of being dangerous, your kindness is worthless. It is merely submission painted in pretty colors. The greatest paradox of depth psychology lies here. If you try to become an angel by denying the beast within, that beast will turn mad and transform you into a hypocrite or an exhausted victim. But if you dare to face the beast, befriend it, and invite it to the negotiation table, it will grant you unparalleled power. American history has witnessed a classic and inspiring example of this integration. Look at Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. In the collective memory, he is a symbol of peace, a gentle man with a beautiful dream. But that is a fatally flawed view. Dr. King was not harmless. To the social prejudices and unjust order of that time, he was a massive threat. He was a dangerous man. An obedient man could never have led thousands of people into the streets to face fire hoses and attack dogs without backing down. A weak man could not have written those steel-hard letters from the Birmingham jail. In Dr. King, we see the presence of a massive monster. It was fierceness. It was rage against evil. It was the iron will to shatter old chains. He took the surging energy of that indignation, which lies in the shadow of so many, and guided it with the light of love. So, when you feel afraid to touch your own sharp edges, remember that you are afraid of your very own treasure. You are leaving your sword to rust, while life demands that you fight for your own happiness. The wholeness you crave lies in whether or not you dare to step down into the basement, unchain the beast, and walk with it into the light. The energy you need to escape your current stagnation is lying right there, within the very things you are trying to hide. But why? Even knowing the treasure is there, do we still hesitate? What is truly stopping you from picking up your sword? There are invisible fears, deeper and more paralyzing than you imagine, standing right in front of the dungeon door of the shadow. Number 3, the 4 fears holding back wholeness. There are invisible sentinels, primal terrors deeply installed in the operating system of your mind, standing guard day and night to ensure your persona mask does not crack. They whisper warnings into your ear that sound like safety, but in reality, they are prison bars confining your soul. The first barrier, the most recognizable yet the most persistent one we have analyzed, is the obsession that if I accept the darkness, I will become a bad person. But a person who knows he carries a gun and chooses to keep it holstered is entirely different from a madman shooting wildly. This moral fear is often just a screen covering another fear, one that is far more existential and painful. It is the fear of rejection. This is the nightmare of the inner child within you, the child who has always believed that belonging is conditional. You believe that people love you only because you are nice, because you are agreeable, because you have no sharp edges. A quiet voice constantly reminds you, if they see the real me, if they see that I too can be jealous, angry, and demanding, they will leave. And Jung, with his brutal honesty, never denied that possibility. But look at the price you are paying for this false safety. In your desperate effort not to be abandoned by others, you have committed the greatest betrayal of all. You have committed self-abandonment. You choose to stay with the crowd, but you have become estranged from your own soul. You are accepted, yes, but they accept the mask, not you. And is there any loneliness more profound than being surrounded by people who love a version of you that is not real? The third fear, a subtle barrier often found in sensitive souls, is the fear of power. Perhaps you grew up under the shadow of a domineering father, an abusive boss, or witnessed historical tragedies where power was used to cause suffering. Subconsciously, you equate power with abuse. You would rather be a victim than a tyrant. You would rather be weak to ensure you never hurt anyone. But this denial leads to a bitter paradox. When you refuse to own your power, you do not become a saint. You become resentful. Impotence makes you petty, quietly judgmental, and passive. Carl Jung pointed out that power, when integrated with consciousness, creates clarity. It allows you to be present, to defend boundaries, and to shield others. A person afraid of their own power cannot protect anyone, not even themselves. And finally, we face the most terrifying sentinel, the final gatekeeper of transformation, the fear of losing identity, the ego death. This is the fear that makes your knees shake. You have spent decades building a castle of identity. I am gentle. I never lose my temper. I am selfless. These labels are not just personality traits. They are the pillars supporting your very existence. You define yourself by what you are not. I am not selfish. I am not evil. Integrating the shadow means you must take a sledgehammer to those pillars. To become whole, your old, narrow version must die. Ego death feels just like a physical death. It is the collapse of the familiar to make way for the new. We would rather cling to a familiar suffering than step into an unknown happiness. We fear that if we let go of the good person mask, we will dissolve into nothingness. But Jung reminds us that this shattering is not the end. It is the necessary crack for the light of the self to enter. You must accept letting the good person inside you die, so that the real person can be born. Overcoming these 4 fears requires extraordinary courage. If you dare to cross over, the other side opens up a land of freedom and strength you never dared to dream of. But how do we grow fangs safely without turning into a destroyer? How do we bring the monster into discipline? That is the art of integration that we will explore right now. Number 4, integration, growing your fangs. When the fortified walls of fear begin to shake, you will find yourself standing before a wilderness, desolate yet full of promise. But this is not the time to let chaos take the reins. Rather, it is the setting for the most sacred union in the human psyche. Carl Jung called this process individuation, the journey toward becoming a whole being. The goal of awakening the monster is to seek the integration of opposites. You need the ability to say an ironclad no, so that your yes carries the weight of a true commitment, not merely feeble submission. But before you strap that sword back to your hip, we must draw a vital boundary. Many people make a fatal mistake, confusing integrating the shadow with being possessed by the shadow. Visualize a man screaming at a waiter because his soup is cold. His face turns purple, his arms flail, and he hurls insults. That is not power. Sadly, that is extreme weakness. He is simply venting aimless rage. In that moment, the man is not controlling the monster. The monster is riding on his back. That is the behavior of an overgrown child throwing a tantrum out of helplessness. Conversely, look at a composed executive. When he discovers a major error, he speaks clearly about the consequences, the standards, and what must be done next. The air in the room thickens with authority. That is assertiveness. He is holding the reins of the monster. He uses the energy of aggression to establish order, not to destroy another's dignity. Let's bring this mindset into the place where obedience often kills your soul the fastest. The workplace. In corporate culture, being a team player is considered essential. But sometimes, team player is just a flowery euphemism for someone who never dares to demand their rights. You work exhaustively, shouldering the responsibilities of others. Yet when salary review comes, you wait silently for benevolence. You fear that if you ask, the boss will be displeased, or worse, you will be fired. Meanwhile, are the most respected people in the company the ones who always say yes? No, they are the ones with boundaries. When an employee who has grown fangs enters the negotiation room, they engage in a fair exchange of value. They dare to look their superior in the eye and say, I deeply respect this job and what we are building, but I also respect my own competence and value. This compensation does not reflect that value, and I will not be able to continue contributing at my highest performance. And this principle becomes even truer, even more naked. In love and relationships, there is a hard truth that romance novels often avoid. Absolute safety is the enemy of desire. If your partner knows that no matter how poorly they treat you, no matter how thoughtless or disrespectful they are, you will still be there because you are too nice or too afraid of being alone, then you have single-handedly killed your own attraction. You become boring. You become a piece of furniture in the house, functional, but no one yearns to look at it. Sexual polarity always needs a hint of mystery, a touch of danger. Your partner needs to feel, this person loves me, but they do not need me to survive. If I betray their trust, they have the strength and self-respect to walk away immediately. It is that very capacity to walk away, those very fangs, that creates a boundary of respect. It compels your partner to make an effort to keep you. It keeps the fire of love burning because it reminds them that you are a prize to be cherished, not a default option. Becoming a monster in love is not about abusing your partner. It is about possessing self-respect so high that you do not allow anyone to trample upon it. If all of this sounds too foreign to the teachings of meekness you were once taught, let us look to the image of Jesus in the temple. In the New Testament, Jesus cleanses the temple when he saw the sacred place turned into a den of thieves by profiteers. What did he do? He sat down and fashioned a whip of cords with his own hands. And then he overturned the tables, scattered the coins, and drove the unclean out of the temple. Jesus used the power of aggression to protect the sacred. He allowed anger to become fuel for action, but he was in complete control of it. He used power to restore order. That image is the most eloquent testament to the mindset of integration. You need the capacity to be dangerous, to protect what is good. A love without the capacity for anger to protect the beloved is an impotent love. A kindness without fangs to tear into evil is a naive kindness. But how do we practice this every day in the smallest matters to bring the shadow into the light without being consumed by it? We need specific tools, exercises for the soul, to turn this philosophy into breath. Number 5, practical methods. Shadow work. Transformation never happens just by sitting still and contemplating. To truly nurture those fangs and awaken the dormant primal energy, we need to step into the laboratory of the soul. Jung called this grueling yet glorious labor shadow work. These are not superficial self-help exercises to make you feel better in 5 minutes. This is spiritual surgery, allowing you to touch your own paralyzed muscle tissue and breathe life back into it. The first tool, and also the most brutal mirror Jung handed us, is the withdrawal of projections. There is a strange defense mechanism of the human mind. When we cannot accept a certain quality within ourselves, we cast it outward and attribute it to others. Jung famously said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." Shadow work invites you to perform a painful but liberating reversal. The arrogance, the hunger for attention, the shamelessness that you despise so intensely is actually living inside you. But because you have repressed it for so long, when you see someone else daring to express it, your envy disguises itself as moral judgment. Next time, when that irritation strikes, instead of looking outward and judging, look inward and ask yourself, which part of me is jealous of their freedom? Which part of me is craving to take up space like that? The moment you admit, I have that arrogance too, I also want to be seen, you withdraw the projection. You stop hating that person, and you begin to reclaim that energy to serve your own healthy ambition. Once you have identified these fragments wandering outside, the next step is to establish a relationship with them through the technique of active imagination. To the logical mind, this might sound like child's play or a symptom of madness. But for Jung, this is the unique bridge connecting the conscious and the unconscious. Find a quiet space, close your eyes, and invite the emotion you fear most to appear. It could be the rage you have always suppressed, or the deep sorrow you always cover with a smile. Do not drive it away. Personify it. Let it take form. What does your anger look like? Is it a black wolf snarling with a bleeding wound? Or is it a warrior chained in a dungeon? Does your fear take the shape of a child huddled in the corner of a room? When that image appears clearly in your mind's eye, do not kill it. Start a conversation. Ask it, why are you here? What do you want from me? Why are you screaming so violently? You will be stunned into silence by the answer. That wolf might be growling because it wants to protect you from those who are exploiting your kindness. That huddled child is not weak. It is guarding the sensitivity and creativity you have forgotten. Through this dialogue, the monster suddenly becomes a mentor, an ally, bearing urgent messages from the soul that you have ignored for too long. But dialogue within the mind is not enough. Transformation needs to be anchored by practical action. This is the moment we perform behavioral micro-experiments. You do not need to slam your hand on the desk and quit your job or pick a fight with the whole world to prove you have changed. Sustainable transformation begins with tiny cracks in that perfect persona mask. Try doing things that contradict your familiar role, but do so at low stakes. If you are always serious, try doing something silly and useless. Dance alone in your kitchen, draw a messy doodle, sing off-key at the top of your lungs. These tiny acts are a declaration to the unconscious, saying, "I do not need to be perfect to exist." Every time you dare to go off script, you are expanding the capacity of your nervous system, helping it get used to the freedom of being yourself. And finally, to mark the critical milestone of this metamorphosis, we need a sacred symbolic act, the ritual for the death of the persona. The human psyche, especially the deep unconscious, responds very powerfully to ritual. The language of logic is sometimes not strong enough to sever old psychological bonds. You need a funeral for the old self so that the new self can be born. Set aside a quiet evening, light a candle, and write a letter to the role you have been carrying all this time. Write to the good girl. Write to the man who pleases everyone. Write with deep gratitude. Thank that mask because it protected you when you were weak, because it helped you survive the difficult years of childhood or social pressure. It has completed its mission. Then, perform the act of release. You can burn that letter in the flame, watching the ashes float away, or bury it in the earth like planting a seed. The moment the fire flares up is the moment you feel a 1,000-pound weight lifted from your shoulders. It is a sacred commitment to your own soul. From now on, I choose to live authentically. These methods do not promise an immediately easy life. They are surgical scalpels, cutting away necrotic tissue so that new life can sprout. And when you begin to practice them, you will see your life start to move along a completely different trajectory, a trajectory of authenticity, perhaps bumpy, but overflowing with vitality. Number 6, the cost of wholeness. When the flame of the ritual to dissolve the persona fades and you step out into the world with a spirit that is more naked, more authentic, do not be surprised if what welcomes you is not fireworks or rounds of applause. This is the moment you must face the cost of wholeness, a bill that life sends to anyone daring enough to reclaim themselves, and it demands to be paid in full. Longtime friends may suddenly drift away. Colleagues who used to slap you on the back will turn and whisper that you have changed, that you have become difficult, aloof, or even selfish. Your heart will skip a painful beat. The feeling of abandonment, that most primal human fear, will claw its way back, whispering in your ear that perhaps you made a mistake, that perhaps it is safest to put the old mask back on to be loved like before. But take a deep breath and see through the true nature of this loss. In reality, you are not losing soulmates. You are only losing people who liked your compliance. They were used to you being a soft piece of furniture, always there to lean on, to dump their emotional trash on, or to order around without ever meeting resistance. When that soft chair suddenly grows thorns to protect itself, they leave because you are no longer useful for them to exploit. This solitude, though it may taste bitter on the tongue, is actually the purest flavor of freedom. It is the necessary space for authentic relationships, those based on mutual respect, to finally have room to sprout. And it is not just the outside world that shifts. Even your inner world will experience seismic upheavals. When the energy of assertiveness begins to flow through your veins again, sometimes you will be afraid of your own self. You will startle when you hear your own voice, unwavering and steely, speak up in a meeting to defend your point. You will shudder when you realize you no longer feel that gnawing guilt when refusing an unreasonable request. You will feel strange with a power surging in your hands, a power you always thought was reserved only for villains. Am I becoming a bad person? That question will linger in your mind during sleepless nights. But please, remember the words of Carl Jung. standing like a lighthouse in this stormy sea. I'd rather be whole than good. You accept the cost of maturity. You accept the scars of growing fangs, because in the end, you would rather be hated for who you truly are than be pitied for a role you are too exhausted to maintain. The peace you find after this storm will not be the peace of a stagnant pond, but the majestic stillness of a mountain that has weathered the elements. Number 7, signs of transformation. Many mistakenly believe that healing or integrating the shadow will lead them to a perpetual state of meditation, where the mind is as flat as a lake and a smile is always on their lips. We often harbor an illusion of enlightenment as a destination, clean, fragrant, and full of white light. But the reality of transformation wears a very different color. It is more earthly, grittier, and certainly far messier. The first sign that the monster is gradually integrating into the flow of your life, ironically enough, is that your life becomes messier. For years, you have lived in a state of perfectly controlled paralysis. But when the wall separating the conscious and the unconscious collapses, the floodgates of emotions repressed for so long will burst open. There will be days when you sob uncontrollably over a movie scene, or feel a surge of anger rolling through you over a petty injustice on the street. But please, be gentle with yourself. This is a sign of revival, like a hand that has gone numb from the cold. When the blood begins to circulate again, the first sensation you feel is a stinging ache. The ache of returning emotion proves your soul is thawing. You are shifting from a state of existing to a state of feeling. You are returning to being a human, full of joy, anger, love, and sorrow. Muddy, perhaps, but vibrant with life. Along with the return of emotion comes the disappearance of pre-written scripts. You become unpredictable. In the past, walking into a meeting or a date, you always carried a script in your head. You were an actor who had memorized your lines. And because of that, you were safe, but boring. When the shadow is integrated, you burn that script. You begin to respond to life with authenticity in the present moment, spontaneity. You might laugh heartily at a joke, but immediately become stern and sharp when someone violates your boundaries. You no longer offer a polite smile just to smooth over the atmosphere. If you do not find it funny, you do not smile. This unpredictability makes you dangerous in the eyes of those who like to control, but magnetically attractive to free souls. You are no longer a passive mirror reflecting what others want to see. People no longer know for sure what you will do next, and that very mystery creates weight to your presence, and that very naked authenticity leads to an inevitable consequence. You become a polarizing figure. Conventionally, popularity and being liked by everyone are seen as the yardsticks of success, while being disliked feels like a terrible failure. But through a Jungian lens, this division is the true measure of wholeness. When you are a pale, washed-out gray, anyone can accept you, but no one truly craves you. There will be people, often those still living within their own lies, who feel allergic to your authenticity. The light of your freedom shines into their prison, making them uncomfortable. They will leave or criticize you for changing, for being arrogant. Let them go. That is life's natural filter. But in return, those who stay, or those who newly enter your life, will connect with you at an unprecedented depth. They are the ones who will gently kiss your scars, your sharp edges, and the monster inside you. Relationships shift from quantity to quality, from superficial acquaintance to soul connection. You no longer need the whole world to like you, because you have found your own tribe, those who cherish wholeness. And the greatest reward, the most precious gem lying at the end of this thorny journey, is reclaimed energy. The massive amount of energy once used to build walls around the shadow is now released. It rushes into your life like a flood. You suddenly find yourself more awake, more creative, and brimming with desire. You no longer drag yourself through the day, waiting for the weekend to be set free. You wake up every morning with the eagerness of a hunter. You want to dive into life, to create, to leave a mark. You no longer need coffee to stay awake, because the very blood flowing through your veins is the most potent stimulant. That is when you realize the monster you once feared, the monster you once wanted to kill, is actually the nuclear fuel for the reactor of your life. You are no longer a weak, good person. You have become a whole human being, strong and overflowing with vitality. Life, when all is said and done, is not a flight from the darkness, but a grand marriage with it. There is a verse in the Bible, "The meek shall inherit the earth." In ancient Greek, the word meek describes the image of a mighty warhorse that had been tamed. It possesses enough muscle and power to crush an enemy's bones in an instant, yet it chooses to stand still in absolute submission to its master's command. That is the true nature of strength, power under control. So, my final message to you is this: do not try to be harmless. Be dangerous, be sharp, be capable of creating chaos, and then use your wisdom to control it, because only when you possess fangs is your tenderness a precious gift, rather than the compulsion of the weak.